Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal. Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome to the Saturday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a wild Saturday of college hoops to recap. It's the first real Saturday of college basketball that we've had during the college basketball season. College football is basically done at this point, right? It's not one of these weird weekends where we have all of these different tournaments going on and they decide just not to play Saturday because that's the way that things go. We had matchups between top 25 teams. We had thrillers involving Purdue and Alabama. We had as good a basketball Saturday as I think we're going to get all season long. I had a lot of fun. My name is Rob Dauster. I got Terrence Oglesby. I got Jeff Goodman with me. So I want to start it off with this. I'm going to you first on this one, T.O. We saw Arizona roll over Wisconsin today. We saw Purdue beat up on Alabama today, who hit 19 three-pointers, right? Out of those two teams who kind of look like they're probably the best two teams in America right now, who was more impressive to you on this Saturday?
Right now, I'm going Arizona, and the reason being is not only are they big, but they have so many different people that can just go nuts on a given day. Today, it just happened to be Pele Larson, who we thought was kind of going to be third, fourth, fifth fiddle, depending on who they were playing and what night it was. No, Pele Larson takes off, has 21 points. They're still well-rounded. They just have so many freaking weapons on that Arizona team. And the fact of the matter is Wisconsin was playing about as well as anybody else in college basketball. Coming over off some big wins, they were able to slow the tempo. They couldn't slow the tempo against this Arizona team. So many guys on Arizona can take over the game for a 3 to 4 minute stretch. And when something goes wrong with one, you just throw in another card. It is unbelievable how many weapons Tommy Lloyd has. Right now, in my mind, they're the number one team in college basketball.
Yeah, I would agree. The thing that was most impressive to me, T.O., was that if you look at Kylan Boswell, Pele Larson, Caleb Love, they combined for 51 points, 18 assists, and 12 rebounds. Just 3 turnovers between the three of them, and they were 9 for 17 from 3. That's as good of a backcourt as you can find in college basketball this season. Yeah,
and they put 100 points on Wisconsin. Wisconsin couldn't do anything. It's you know what? Everybody, you can sit on defense, say defense travels this, that, and the third. Not really that many teams that can go into a power conference place and then score 100 points against somebody like a Wisconsin who likes to slow it down so much.
Are you worried about Wisconsin, T.O.?
Can I ask something first? Can I ask something first? Is Pele Larson related to Pele, the soccer player? I thought it was Pele Larson. I'm very confused here who we're talking about, T.O.
Well, it depends. You say Pele, or you say Pele. It depends on what part of Sweden you're in, but we could go for that. We could go for that. What do you think, Pele?
I'm just making sure. You're the expert. Hey, you're the expert here. I'm just trying to figure out how to pronounce his name.
No, Pele Larson. Pele Larson. Right. You can do it however you want, Jeff. You can do it however you want, Jeff. It's your world. I'm living in it.
For those that are keeping track at home, we made it exactly 3 minutes and 36 seconds before Goodman cut in without having the audio get thrown to him. So, Jeff, let's. I think everybody here knows 3 things about you: that you're in Charleston right now, your daughter goes to Indiana, and you are an Arizona alum. So, let's talk about your Wildcats, man. How impressed were you?
First of all, to our city, Charleston, URI, big game tomorrow. But yes, my Wildcats were damn impressive. This is a team that I didn't even have in the preseason top 25 up until probably September or October, when I had lunch with Jack Murphy in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and he was raving, the assistant coach for the Wildcats, how good they were, how good Caleb Love was, how much that he kind of embraced his role. And we see that now, right? He's not hungry all the time to get his numbers, to get his points. He's actually guarding at a high level right now, which is very different than he was a year ago at Carolina. And I think, honestly, I think Tommy Lloyd is a big reason why. I think at Carolina, he could do whatever the hell he wanted, and Hubert never pulled him. Where at Arizona, you've got other players that if he's not doing what he should be doing, you know what? You throw in Jaden Bradley, because what's Jaden Bradley going to do? He's going to guard. He's tough. He's going to get to the basket. You can have playing time over Caleb Love, and I think he was humbled a little bit by what happened last year as well. But this is a team that's got balance, man. They've got experience. They guard, which they really didn't do at a high level the last couple of years. They were okay the last couple of years, but now they're really, really good on both ends. They're like a top 5 offensive and defensive. I don't know what the numbers say, but I would say they're like top 5 or 10 in both areas right now.
They're both top. They're top 5 in both. And Keyshawn Johnson adds a lot to that defense too, like switchability, just general toughness. And then you have like KJ Lewis, who's a freshman, but he brings some physicality. I like the point about Jaden Bradley and being able to hold Caleb Love accountable and actually doing it are two different things. And that's something that Hubert didn't do at North Carolina because there wasn't a whole lot behind him in terms of having an immediate scoring punch. Arizona has that. And we thought we'd be able to see an efficient Caleb Love this year. We're starting to see that. I thought he was terrific today as well.
Yeah, guys, I don't know if there is a team in college basketball right now that is better built to make a run in March than this Arizona team is. They have multiple guys that can go and create their own shot. They have multiple playmakers that can make something happen for somebody else. They got shooters all over the floor. They have a 4-man that can guard any 4-man in college basketball. They have a 5-man that they can run offense through if they need to. They have guys off the bench, KJ Lewis, Jaden Bradley, the Krivas kid, the freshman. They can go 8 or 9 deep if they need to. And the biggest thing for me is I think what we saw last year against Princeton, Jeff, was that they couldn't guard on the perimeter, right? Like they can get exposed if you had people that could pull them away from the basket. Well, now if they need to, they can put Keyshawn Johnson at the 5, and they still have a team that is going to be a lockdown defensive team. I don't know if I don't want to say that they are like clearly the best team in college basketball. I'd probably have them number 1. I think they're the top of a tier that is like 6, 7, 8, 9 teams, whatever you want to go to. That said, I think that if I had to pick a program right now to win the national title, if I had to go to BetMGM, our partners, by the way, to go pick someone, a future to win a national championship right now today, I think it would be Arizona.
The difference, too, as good as Tubelis was offensively, he gave up what he scored. He just did. Like playing him and Balla together did not work defensively. Now, as you said, you replace him with Keyshawn Johnson, one of the best defenders maybe in the country right now. So, again, they've got enough dudes who can score. And Keyshawn is a guy that, honestly, nobody's going to guard out there in the perimeter anyway. You don't have to run anything for him. He's going to get open looks from 3 because teams are going to sag off him and dare him to make those shots. And other than that, he's just going to go get him. He's going to get him off the glass. He's going to get him in transition. So those other guys, again, Pelle Larsson and Boswell, honestly, right now is a top 5 point guard in the country. He is in terms of intangibles and everything he does, toughness, leadership, all of it. Boswell is a top 5 point guard, period, in the country.
All right, I want to flip this real quick to you.
The entire team, 26 assists to 7 turnovers. And here's another thing too. Never discount the fact that you grab a guy in Keyshawn Johnson that's coming from a winning program. And not only just a winning program, a team that made it to the national championship game. Like he understands winning stuff, and he played a role at that previous spot too, to where they didn't necessarily run a ton of stuff for him. He was just like this toughness utility guy. He just fit in seamlessly at Arizona, who understood like, hey, playing 2, 6, 10 and above right now in today's game isn't going to work all the time, but the puzzle pieces fit. I've always been a big puzzle piece guy. The puzzle pieces fit at Arizona, and there's depth to go along with that.
All right, I want to ask you about the puzzle pieces at Wisconsin, because this was the second time that we've seen the Badgers go on the road and get completely blasted. Right? They lost by, I think it was 13 at Providence. They were down by like 30 in that game. They lost by 25 today. Is this just T.O., we'll go to you first on this one, Jeff, you weigh in too. Was this just a result of them, running into a buzzsaw here? Is there something to be said about Wisconsin away from the Kohl Center? What do you make of this performance, T.O.?
I think today was a buzzsaw, but I also think that the type of game that they play isn't necessarily geared to come from behind. So if you're able to get up on them 10 points, it can slip away from them in a hurry.
Yeah, and it was I think it was 23-23. I think it was 23 all, and then Arizona went in a crazy run. And then you're right, they're not built to come back. And they are the type of team that plays so much better at the Kohl Center. And McHale's a big home court advantage right now. It's a big home court advantage. And you've got, again, athletes, big, strong, athletic dudes for Arizona against, let's face it, Wisconsin is not the most athletic team in the world.
Yeah, I'm still pretty much in on Wisconsin as a top 3 to 4 team in the Big Ten, but I think that kind of tells you what you need to know about the Big Ten as a whole. Speaking of the Big Ten, the best team in the Big Ten went up to Toronto, Zach Edey's home city, and beat Alabama 92-86 in one of the more entertaining games that I think I've seen in a long time. Alabama took 64 shots from the floor, 46 of them were threes. T.O. would have loved to play for this Alabama team. Meanwhile, on the other side, Alabama threw 3 or 4 guys at Zach Edey on every possession. He still finished with 35 points, and he wasn't even the best player on the floor for his own team. Braden Smith, 27 points, 5 boards, 8 assists, just a single turnover. He was an absolute killer in ball screens today. You know what's weird, Jeff? We can't get a game from Purdue where all of their guards play well together. It's like one of them goes completely nuts, and the other two look like they're trying to shave points. Today was Braden Smith that went nuts. He was awesome. Purdue gets the win.
Now, part of it is Alabama's defense. Let's be honest here. Alabama's ball screen defense was not great, but Braden Smith was sensational in terms of making every right decision, just kind of picking them apart and being aggressive and assertive shooting the ball. I think at times, especially last year towards the middle, second half of the year, he was tentative in terms of even when he was open to shoot the ball. I think now, again, he knows how much is on him in order to make this team go, and certainly come March, a ton is going to be on Braden Smith. So he was awesome, and history was made today, Rob. History was made in Toronto when Zach Edey passed one Robbie Hummel and moved into 10th in Purdue's all-time scoring list. So no longer can Robbie Hummel say he is in the top 10 in Purdue's all-time scoring list. And the crazy part is that Zach Edey did it in half the amount of years as Hummel did
it. Go ahead.
It's unreal, Jeff. That's unreal. Hey, by the way, congrats to Robbie, who I think was nominated for an Emmy. I think he was. Golly,
Emmy and Oscar.
I think he was.
All of them.
Yeah.
Emmy, Oscar.
All of them. It might have been an Emmy. I'm not sure what it was, but congrats to him. Here's the thing. Alabama, it's funny watching anybody play Purdue because it's such a cumulative effect as the game goes on that, you can be playing great and you can be hitting shots. Alabama was up at half by 2, and you could incite your pace of play with consistency. The problem that you run into is Zach Edey fouls out your top 3 bigs, and there's nothing you could really do about it. And not only that, while he's fouling them out, he's shooting damn near 80% from the free throw line. So it's what are you supposed to do with somebody that big and that dominant? You only need one player on the perimeter to have a good game. And thank God Braden Smith did. But all of that being said, you had somebody go hit 8 threes for Alabama. Mark Sears went berserk. He was really good today at times. Hit 8 threes. Doesn't matter. Purdue still wins. It's you know what? They're going to have some bumps in the road. They're going to play against some really good guards that can take it over and take the air out of the ball or whatever and keep it close and win at the end. But the fact of the matter is Zach Edey's a one-man wrecking crew who's figured out how to defend smaller players who they put out on the perimeter. And then now Braden Smith's kind of coming into his own. If they can ever get on track to where they have two guards play well in the same game, I don't know how you beat them then, because with Zach Edey in the fold, it's just different. It's just different. Nick Bringle's a good player. So Grant Nelson's a good player. What's his name? Woggy's a good player. And he just fouls them out one after another. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen.
He really did. It's like dropping a grenade in your front line and just letting it explode, because you look there at the end of the game and it's like, all right, my starter played 11 minutes and fouled out. My backup played 13 minutes and he fouled out. We started playing our 3-man at the 5. He fouled out. And all of a sudden you look at it, you got like 35 fouls in the game. It was it's impressive.
Nick Pringle played 9 minutes and fouled out. Nick Pringle played 9 minutes and fouled out. Woggy played 20 minutes and fouled out. Like,
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
You do.
There's nothing,
like
there's
you said,
nothing you can do.
So good. Edie's so good from the, what do you go, 11 for 11, I think, tonight from the line.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah,
that's the advantage. Most of those bigs are going to shoot, 65, maybe 70, 72%. This dude's been fairly automatic other than, I think, one game this season. And that's such a huge advantage. And again, Braden Smith, these guys are getting uncontested threes for the most part because of Zach Edey. Eventually, they're going to get their confidence, and I think it's going to be different. Are they going to be tight that first round tournament game? Of course. But once you get past that one, like Virginia did a few years ago against Gardner-Webb, just get past that one, and then you'll be fine.
Yeah, I do think it's important to note that Mason Gillis hit a 3 today. Miles Colvin hit a 3 today. Trey Kaufman-Wren hit a 3 today. So being able to get those to a point, I think you just need them to kind of make 1 or 2 so that defenses can't just throw 4 guys at them without feeling like they're going to get punished. And they were able to do that today. I do just want to circle back to Braden Smith again, though, because I do think the fact that he's kind of turned into a guy that can go get his own, like, he's so good.
Good God, he loves to go right.
Yeah.
Every time I watch him play, he's freaking going right. He's coming off a ball screen, going right. Just going right. Yeah, every time. But who's scouting? He's going right. Sorry.
He gets that little 12-foot pull-up, and it's automatic. Like, he knows the shot that he can make, and he gets there, and he hits it. And he's getting better at getting to the rim. And he hit a couple threes going to his left today. In the second half, he hit the back-to-back threes that kind of got them a little bit of separation. I think it turned a 60-59 deficit into a 65-50 lead. And the fact that he can kind of create his own, like, that's what they need. They just need someone where when things get bogged down at the end of a clock and there's 10 seconds left and there's 2 minutes left in the game and you're up by 1 and you really need a bucket, but you don't have time to scheme something to where you're going to throw it into Zach Edey, you just got Braden Smith that can go out there and get one. Even if it is the same shot every single time, he knows he can get to that little 12-foot pull-up going right, and it works because everyone's got to play him a drop because that's the only way that you can stop them when you got Zach Edey in there.
Yep. And there's some relief there, too, whenever you get in a pickle and you know where exactly you can get a shot. You know you can get to that elbow. And if that's your spot, like, you're in good shape. But there's comfort in that. There's not going to be something different. You're going to be able to get to that because you can't play him any differently.
Yep. Goodman, anything to add on Alabama here? I think that we all kind of had fairly high expectations for him. And it's not been the worst start of the year. But they don't guard. They can't get any stops. That seems a little bit problematic to me.
Listen, they were 13 for 24 in the first half from 3, and again, they were. I believe they were trailing by 2 or up by 2. They were up by 2. So yeah, they're up by 2. That's it. I mean, again, when you go 13 for 24 from 3, you better be up by 10, 15 points. And so you knew Purdue was going to come back. I think Nate Oates feels like, they have a chance because of how they fought Purdue in Toronto, in Zach Edey's hometown, that they were there. But it took like an extraordinary effort for Mark Sears to be able to kind of hang with them. They miss Bediako. Like, he's the dude. He's, you can talk all you want about Brandon Miller. It's not Brandon Miller they miss. It's Bediako and his defense and his rim protection and his rebounding and his toughness and his athleticism and all of that. They don't have that, and they need it desperately right now.
I also think that they're really having a hard time getting Aaron Estrada to play comfortably off the ball. Like, whenever he was at Hofstra, he had the ball in his hands a lot, and here at Alabama and Tuscaloosa, like, it's Mark Sears' show, and he has having a hard time finding that balance between being this on-the-ball creator and then playing off and playing in spots, which hasn't necessarily been his game. And that's a big adjustment for somebody who's over the last 2-3 years has been a big-time scorer at a lower level, but it's all been because he's had the ball in his hands the whole time. So that part's tough, and it's going to take a minute for him to figure that out. But whenever you get Aaron Estrada back up to that 14 to 16 point per game area, they're going to be much better. And sometimes your offense helps your defense just that way. Guys are more comfortable. They're more confident. And maybe they'll be able to guard a little better.
Yeah, you'd think in theory that those two together would work really, really well because you could just kind of take turns on who's going to go make a move. But then, you throw in Grant Nelson, who kind of needs the ball to be effective. Like, I don't know how well he is just like a spot-up shooter. He's not really a floor spacer. Latrell Wrightsell has not really figured it out yet either. So there's still a work in progress. The point about Bediako, I think, is the biggest one. They can't get any stops. They're scoring. They got no problem scoring. They can't really get any stops. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Goodman, we tried to tell everyone, Illinois, they're not going to get 33 from Marcus Domask every single night. He didn't go for 33 tonight. They lost on the road to good old Rocky Top. We're going to get to that as soon as we get back.
Don't say.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook for this college basketball season. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and predictions throughout the college basketball season. And we are going to have special offers for you, the listeners and the viewers on the Field of 68 each and every week during the season. If you haven't signed up with BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FIELD1500 and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager on BetMGM Sportsbook. Here's what you got to do. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD1500. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if that bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FIELD1500 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient for me when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly. When crossing state borders, just log into your existing account instead of having to create new accounts in each state that you go to. And most importantly, I got to let you know, we do have some fun stuff coming up for this college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, my personal favorite, parlay odds boosts. So download the BetMGM app today. Welcome back to the Friday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. My name is Rob Dauster. Saturday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. I don't know what day it is. I never know what day it is. I have two children. That's the bottom line. I never know what day it is. My name is Rob Dauster. I got Terrence Oglesby with me. I got Jeff Goodman with me. We are presented by our partners over at BetMGM. Goodman, and we got to start with you on this one, man, because we tried to warn Illinois fans that it wasn't always going to be the greatest performance from Marcus Domask. You're not always going to get 33 points on 15 for 21 shooting from him. You're not always going to get 66 points on 25 to 35 shooting from their two stars, from him and Terrence Shannon. But I'll tell you this much. I was actually pleasantly surprised with how well Illinois played, despite the fact that combined Terrence Shannon and Marcus Domask, who are the two go-to guys for that program, finished 7 for 27 from the floor. Tennessee 86, Illinois 79. What is your biggest takeaway from that game?
I don't think I was that surprised. Again, as we said, like Marcus Domask is not going to have those games. 33, forget about 33. Like just get 16 to 18. And tonight you got 6, and Terrence Shannon was awful. They decided they were going to concentrate all their efforts, Tennessee would, on stopping those two guys and just daring Quincy Guerrier to take shots and daring Ty Rodgers to take shots. Now, Guerrier made him. But again, it was just like, hey, you know what? Go ahead. We're going to give you your 20. And Ty Rodgers, it's like playing 4 and 5 out there in so many ways. And to me, again, I think you're so limited what you can do because you have a point guard that literally will not shoot the basketball, Rob. So it's like, would he take 1 or 2 shots tonight? He's out there. Shot. He's tough. I know he's Brad Underwood's type of – right, no shots. He's Brad Underwood's type of guy, but he's your type of guy coming off the bench. That's where Ty Rodgers is at his best, not starting. He's got to come off the bench and give you that toughness. But again, if Shannon and Domask are both having off nights, and Coleman Hawkins, you just don't really know what you're going to get there also. This is a team that's feast or famine. That's what they are. They were feast the other night against a FAU team that they were able to physically overwhelm with their length and even their athleticism. Well, tonight they couldn't do that against Tennessee. You can't.
I don't know. I think feast or famine might be a little bit too strong, but they are a team that is going to rely on having to get everything one-on-one. If you look at their numbers right now, they are 326 nationally in the percentage of made field goals that come off of assists. Tonight, they had 23 field goals made and 9 assists. Everything that they're going to do when you go up against a team like a Tennessee, when you go up against a team like an FAU, is going to come from one-on-one actions, more or less. That's the way that they have to score. That's the way they have to get offense if they can't get in transition. You know what Tennessee has? They got dudes that can lock up one-on-one. That is what they do. That is how they are built. They gap you. They don't let you get to the basket. They don't let you get to that mid-range. They are just very, very good defensively and sound. And to me, T.O., this was more just a tough matchup for Illinois that happened to come on the road. I'm not super concerned about them at all. As a matter of fact, I still think after watching them play here and seeing that Coleman Hawkins and Quincy Guerrier both kind of woke up, I'd probably still have them as like the second or third best team in the Big Ten at this point.
You know what's crazy is like if Coleman Hawkins was consistent, he'd be an NBA player. He's just not consistent. Like he has every tool that you want. No, as far as one-on-one, that's kind of been their deal over the past couple of years. But I remember watching Ty Rogers guys with Mean Street sitting beside you guys at Peach Jam. I was like, man, he's a heck of a 3-4, and he's having to play the point for them. Like it just seems like a square peg, round hole situation there, and they don't really get a ton of things that easy that are assisted. Like whenever the ball moves, like there's a lot of stress being put on Domask and Terrence Shannon if they're having to score one-on-one all the time. That's really hard throughout the course of the season, especially as physical as it's going to get in the Big Ten.
Hey, Tio, all they need, honestly, what they're missing more than anything is just a pure – I know they don't exist that much anymore, but like give them like a TJ McConnell type point guard. Somebody like that just knows how to move the ball, will guard, can make an open shot, and will take an open shot, doesn't force it. Well, Ty Rogers doesn't really do that yet. He's got to be more assertive. He's got to be. Otherwise,
they had Sky Clark. I thought Sky Clark could like develop into that guy, but then he ends up leaving early, and there's all kinds of issues there. Look, they played Tennessee in Knoxville and had more fouls than Tennessee. That also says a lot. And then on top of that, you know what? Big takeaway: the second 10 minutes of that first half, Tennessee scored 6 points. And the other 30 minutes of that game, they were great, but it's those offensive lulls for the Vols that just kill you. And it's literally what's keeping them from being legitimate national title contenders is those offensive lulls. Now, look, they were balanced today. Dalton Knecht is a dude. He gives them a different type of player, somebody who can create a little bit, get downhill and score on his own. They haven't necessarily had that the past few years, but it's like they rely on him a lot too now. And then they're all to get like those offensive droughts are the things that scare me the most about Tennessee, because they could win a lot of games because they're physical. They score even though they're physical whenever they're good. But it's those 10-minute droughts where it's like, just if I had any hair, I'd pull it out, but I don't.
All right. Well, look, Goodman, we're going to go from one program that T.O. identifies with to another. And look, this is what we call ISO ball here on the field of 68 after dark. We're going 1-4 low. We're putting the ball in Terrence Oglesby's hands. Jeff and I are getting the hell out of the way because number 24 Clemson is sitting here 9-0 this season after beating TCU 74-66 in Toronto. T.O., clear out. Ball's yours. Do them, son.
Hey, look, I was impressed with Clemson, but TCU hadn't played anybody all season long. So I think the fact that they were they were 7-0, but it wasn't against anybody. I think they had dead last strength of schedule heading into this game, like 360th or something like that, like something crazy. Now, all of that being said, TCU is still going to be pretty good. They're old. They're actually really old. I think they're playing 8 seniors at a time, one of the older teams in all of college basketball. Jameer Nelson, they did a good job defending him. They held TCU to 3 of 16 3-point shooting. They're not a great 3-point shooting team, but you still got to guard them and you still got to figure it out. Look, Clemson's good. Joe Girard was a terrific addition. The guy that people aren't talking about enough is Ian Shefflin. Like, this guy is baby Barkley in a Clemson uniform. Man. He is so – like, he is tough, they're not 50-50 balls. They're 80-20 balls, and they're going Ian's way. And he's going to hurt somebody on the way there. Like, we understand P.J. Hall is going to get paid to play. We understand Joe Girard's a big-time scorer that has a long history of getting buckets. Chase Hunter hasn't found himself, but Ian Shefflin it's kind of been his coming out party this season just because he is so relentless. I saw him play in high school, guys. I was a little worried. I was like, he's undersized. He comes off the bench for his AAU team. He doesn't really shoot it great, but you know what he does? He freaking boards. And he doesn't just kind of boards. He full boards. And then he gets 17 boards at Pitt. He gets another 12 and 12 against South Carolina. And what did he have today? He had 9 boards, 5 assists to go along with 14 points. A do-it-all guy. And the fact of the matter is, he was 6 for 8 from 2. He can knock down that occasional perimeter shot. He is just such a vital extra piece for that team. And then one more guy I have to mention, Chauncey Wiggins is starting to figure things out. Like, he's really he's all of 6'10". And Jeff, if you come up here next month, you're going to be able to see, like, he's all of 6'10". He has guard skill, but more than anything, he makes Clemson really versatile in how they can defend because of that size. They're not super big at the 1 and 2. Chase Hunter's 6'3", 6'4". He's kind of gotten off to a slow start. Joe Girard's smaller, but he's got some toughness to him. But that 3, 4, 5, they can do a lot of scramble out situations in the half court if those guys get stuck in small ball situations where they're defending a big man in the post. Like, this is a really good team.
Yeah, I agree. And Goodman, this is where we have to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It is a place you can store your predictions forever. And by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than people like Jeff Goodman. Go download the Vaulted app for the free trial. That is VLTED. It's the app to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. Goodman, here is my challenge to you. I am saying right here, right now, on December 9th in the year of our Lord 2023, that the Clemson Tigers are going to cut down the nets as the ACC regular season champions this year.
And Oglesby would shit. Sorry, go ahead.
So listen. I love this Clemson team, number one. I really like them because, again, they're older, they're balanced, like Tio said. I like Wiggins and Godfrey. I think they're both versatile pieces. You don't have to rely on one guy too much. Chase Hunter hasn't even really found himself. And like you said, like, he had an awful game today, and they still ended up winning. However, last year, we know what happened at the end of the year. You know, they didn't get in. These guys aren't used to, whether it's Joe Girard, by the way, who had an off year. You know, they didn't do well at Syracuse for a lot of his career, and PJ Hall and Hunter and some of these other dudes. There's not a culture of winning and going to the NCAA tournament and winning ACC titles. In fact, I think they were 18-4 last year at one point. And I think they were under 500 in the last 10 or so games and fell out and didn't make the NCAA tournament. So I'm going to say no to that, Robert, and go with the field and go with the Dukes and the Carolinas. And, oh, by the way, a guy named Tony Bennett, who I think has owned this league ever since maybe Tio. No, Tio, you weren't. You were
no, he got the job. What would have been my junior year, I think. Yeah,
you didn't stick around long enough. No, you didn't stick around long enough. You bolted. You bolted too quick.
Yeah, I bolted, and now I'm on vaulted.
All right. Moving on. Goodman doesn't like fun. Goodman doesn't like good stories in college basketball. That is confirmed. I want to talk about the Oklahoma Sooners, the number 19 team in the country, another team that is sitting here at 9-0 after beating Arkansas 79-70 in, I believe it was called the Cardinal and Crimson Classic, a game that was played in Tulsa. We were able to catch up with Porter Moser, fresh off of winning his ninth game of the season. And right before he was going to dive into, I believe it was a plate of chicken strips and pasta, he told us. Let's get into that interview right now. Porter Moser from the bus. Now let me welcome onto the field of 68 after dark, fresh off a 79-70 win over Arkansas. None other than Oklahoma head coach Porter Moser. Coach, you are sitting here 9-0, number 19 in the country, playing as good a basketball as anybody in the Big 12. we talked before the season started, and I got the feeling that you liked your team. Did you expect this kind of start out of your guys?
You know what I expected is I really liked the guys, from the jump this summer. I mean, we had two guys that started us for as freshmen, Ortega Uwe and Milos Uzan, and then Sam Godwin played a lot of minutes. We had three guys that played a lot of minutes last year, and then they blended with the portal guys right away. And so, I mean, you never sit there and are you going to go whatever you're starting out? But I really like the team. I thought we were deep. I thought we're coming off the bench with three starters. I think we got 8 starters on our team. And, with guys like Rivaldo Soares, who played really well tonight. He started at Oregon. But Trey Darthard started at Utah Valley, and John Hughley at Pitt. So I really felt we were deep.
So Javion's been great, especially these last 2 games for him. I mean, pretty much all year, but these last 2 games he's been terrific. How did you get him? Was he kind of did you have a hook to being able to get him to Norman, or not really? Just the portal?
Not really. It was the portal, but I will tell you this: we were in the ESPN tournament last year in Orlando, and you know how you can sit courtside and scout. So we were sitting there, and we played I think in Nebraska first, and then we were sitting there watching all the games, and we're sitting there going, man, this kid is dynamic. He can score at all 3 levels, and we were scouting, preparing for him in case we played Siena. And then the season went on. We just didn't think about it. And then when we saw him in the portal, it was like right away, we were like, this is what we're looking for. We're looking for speed, shooting. I think level score. I think he can get to the rim. He's got a good mid-range game, and he can shoot the 3. And we just have been non-athletic, and he just adds tremendous speed to our roster.
Yeah, you guys, non-athletic is definitely not something I would call you guys this season. Between the addition of Suarez and the addition of Jalen Moore and the addition of JV McCollum, but to me, the guy that really stands out is Ortega Uwe. He took a big step this year. I think everyone kind of pegged Milos as going to be the guy that's going to be the breakout player for you guys. But Ortega's here. He's averaging 15 points a game. He's shooting. I know it's small attempts, but he's shooting like 82% from 3 after going 2 for 2 today. How good has he been for you guys this season?
It's everything, too, because like even what we did at Loyola, it was about retention and skill development. And, I never had guys in my top 8 leaving at Loyola, but it was, they didn't have the portal where they could do it right away. And just getting those guys, we invested in them last year as freshmen. And you know how hard it is to win in the Big 12 starting 2 freshmen. But we invested in them, and those guys believed in what we're doing, and they just got better. We poured into skill development, and Ortega is a great example. He's a gym rat. He works so hard on his handle, so hard on his shot. And but that's what, in this day and age of portal, it's got to be, you got to blend. You're going to have to get portal guys, but you also got to retain the guys and get them better. And Ortega is an unbelievable example of a guy who just invested in the get better process.
All right, so Porter, you're on the bus ride back home from Tulsa right now. How long is it, and what's it like right now? It sounds pretty quiet, but my guess is once you're done with this interview, or maybe, it already happened, your guys have been pretty excited after this win against Arkansas.
Yeah, I got my AirPods on, so they're probably blocking out a lot of the noise. No, they're excited. It's about an hour and 45-minute drive. I'm sitting here right next to the seat, about an arm length away, from Sooner legend Coach Barry Switzer is with us on the bus today, and he's right next to me, and just excited to go back and get after. We have finals week now, so we got a little bit of a break, but. Our guys, they understand it was a big win. They understand how good Arkansas, their program is. I think Tulsa does a great job. This was like an NCAA regional type atmosphere that they've done the last 3 years here. So our guys are excited about a big win.
What's the celebratory snack on the bus ride home that you got, Porter?
So, Abby Herkelman is our nutritionist. She had a little buffet. She had some chicken strips, red bean and rice, and vegetables. We had some pasta. So we had a little, trying to be healthy oriented coming home. So the guys are snacking on a bunch of different things. But I'm sure my snack will be different in 2 hours.
Yeah, there you go. Listen, Porter, congratulations.
It better involve a little alcohol, Porter. All right, it better involve a little alcohol.
I got to. No, we'll see.
All right.
We'll see. I made up my
Porter.
Jesuit background,
Porter, listen, man, congratulations on the win. Go celebrate with a nice chicken strip platter over there on the bus ride home. We appreciate you being here, man.
You guys, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks,
we'll
Porter.
see you, man.
Thanks, man.
That cut off right before Porter Moser said goodbye and had balloons just go everywhere on his screen because he has the same thing that T.O. used to have set up where whatever he's doing with his hands is triggering something in the new FaceTime app or whatever it is. I have no idea what's going on, but there were balloons everywhere. Anyway, Goodman, I want to go to you first on this one because I am very high on this Oklahoma team, and I don't think it's necessarily an overreaction to one performance or just a couple of performances, because what we've seen from them all season long, an impressive win over Iowa, a win over a good USC team. They beat Providence by 21 at home. They beat a good Arkansas team by 9 here on a neutral court. How good do you think this Oklahoma team is?
Here's my question, and I'll throw it to T.O. These teams that they're playing, did they get them at the right time? Did they get Iowa at the right time? Did they get USC without Bronny James? And I think they were without either Boogie Ellis or Kobe Johnson. Arkansas is still trying to really find itself, right? Tremont Mark just coming back. They got a whole new team. We know what Muss's teams do early. Yes, I think this Oklahoma team is good. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a good team. I think they're probably an NCAA tournament team. But I still want to see how they're going to do in the Big 12 when they go up against a lot of good teams every single night. Are they going to be able to, when they hit adversity, how are they going to deal with that? How are they going to deal with right now? Again, they're winning games. They're beating teams that we didn't think they'd really beat, to be honest. So I give them a lot of credit for that. I just want to see if it stands up long term.
Well, I think that long-term thing, I think there's a good point there. And one of the reasons being is Xavier McCollum. I saw him play at Siena. I think he's a really good player. He is slight. And whenever you play in that Big 12 league, there's a lot of big guys. There's a lot of bodies banging around down there. And I'm curious to see if his body can hold up. Jeff, you might remember this name, Tony White Jr., who played at Charleston back when I played. Yep. Same age. They were the same build, 6'1", 6'2", $150, and they hit the floor a lot. Now, obviously I'm switching back between about 50 games today, and I'm not sure how much McCollum hits the floor. But all of that being said, small bodies in that league have a tough time at times. Marquise Noel, I know people will bring him up. He's more of a stocky, shorter guy. McCollum's lanky and long and thin, and I worry because they put so much onus on him. If he gets hurt, what happens then? That's my biggest concern with Oklahoma. Outside of that, we know Porter Moser can coach. We know that they have certain utility guys that are good within certain spots. So there's not a whole lot of concern as far as that. But it's just if their main guy goes down for whatever reason, can they sustain? Because it comes then, can these guys sustain at a certain level? And in the Big 12, that's hard.
So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with all of those concerns. My response would be that I do think that Milos Uzan is good enough where he could be putting up more numbers than he is right now. I think he's kind of accepting a role because Xavier McCollum beat him out for the starting point guard spot, more or less. But I think when you have those two playmakers in the backcourt, you have about a half dozen guys, whether it's Ortega Owe, Rivaldo Suarez, Jalen Moore, the kid that transferred in from Georgia Tech. They just have a whole bunch of long athletic dudes. They can roll a 3 in the 4 spot. I think you have a nice combination of Sam Godwin and John Hughley at the 5 spot. I really like what this team has. I think that as they win games, as they stack up W's, and as that undefeated record looks a little bit better, they're probably going to climb in the rankings. I think that they're probably about where they should be in that like top 20 to 25 range right now. But to me, that's good enough to be a top 5 team in the Big 12, and I don't think anybody had that coming into the season. So since we're in the Big 12, I want to pivot to another Big 12 team. We saw Kansas get off to a slow start. They were down 15-6 at home to a Missouri team that is not very good before turning it on. Goodman, how we talk about the shooting all the time with this Kansas team, right? Seeing them struggle against that switching defense and that kind of like almost 2-3 zone, whatever you want to call that defense that Missouri plays. I'm just kind of, I don't know. I want to be all the way in on this Kansas team. It just does not feel like they are humming at the level that a Arizona, a Purdue, a UConn is at this point.
Hey, Rob, Johnny Furphy played 7 minutes tonight. 7 minutes. Now, again, we have said, like, he needs to progress in order for this team to be really good. Like, he's got to become a player. Maybe not a dude, but like a guy that you can count on to play 18, 20, 25 minutes maybe and make some shots. Because ultimately, I think we all know, like, Bill Self is as good as it gets, but he's not a magician, right? You know, to me, you can't all of a sudden get a bunch of guys that really aren't very good shooters to all of a sudden become great shooters, right? Like Kevin McCullough, you kind of are what you are for the most part. We've seen enough of you throughout college basketball, and I love Kevin McCullough, but he's not a great shooter, right? Like DeJuan Harris is not a very good shooter. Yes, he'll have his games where he'll make them, but ultimately he's not a guy that you can rely on to make shots. Elmarco Jackson can't shoot it. Timberlake hasn't been able to shoot it. We've seen that. KJ Adams, he's great from 8 to 10 feet, but beyond that, he can't shoot. Your best shooter is Hunter Dickinson. That is a scary, scary proposition when it comes to the NCAA tournament and trying to win 6 straight, which is what it is for Kansas. Ultimately, anything short of 4 straight, nobody gives a shit about in Kansas. And really, it's about national titles.
Yeah, I'm going to throw something at you, though, T.O. Goodman said Kevin McCullough is what he is, and we know what he is. I think he's an All-American this year. Like, tell me if this is a crazy take. Right now, for a top 3 team in America, he's sitting here averaging 19 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, playing elite-level defense while shooting 39% from 3 on 3.5 attempts per game. Like, that is All-American numbers, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Here's another thing that's kind of weird is that they just don't take them either. Like 3 of 10, that's not a whole lot of threes against a switching defense where you're able to put pressure on the rim. Missouri's okay. I think they're a mid-level team in the SEC. They're just okay. Kevin McCullough, it's just that they just kind of battled. And I feel like where Kansas knows exactly where they are, they're taking advantage of some teams who are still trying to figure it out right now. The top end for Kansas, DeJuan Harris played 40 minutes. Their bench guys are this. Parker Braun, 5 minutes. Furphy, 8. Or you said 7, I'll go with 7. McDowell, 4. Timberlake, 6. He's got no faith past his first 5. That worries me a little bit more than the three-point shooting, truth be told. They're still very good. And I just think like eventually something's going to happen to where you need somebody off the bench to provide something. And there's just not a whole lot of faith being put in the guys coming off the pine.
Yeah, the bench combined for 23 minutes, and every starter played at least 26 minutes for Kansas today. So I want to pivot to another blue blood because I think that the single biggest storyline in college basketball today is that Aaron Bradshaw not only played, but he played 29 minutes. He had 17 points, 11 boards, and 3 blocks. And while they beat Penn, which is, it's Penn. Okay, I get it.
Hey, no. Penn beat Villanova now. Penn beat Villanova.
I know they beat everybody in the city of Philadelphia beat Villanova this season. But 17 points, 11 boards, 3 assists in 29 minutes. Like, what does he do, T.O.? What does he do for this Kentucky team when he is going to be he had a 3-2. Like, when he can be this guy, what does that give Kentucky?
Man, he's skilled. Let's not he's really skilled offensively. They're not going to let him do a ton. Let's not be naive. He's not going to be relied on to do a ton offensively. But what he provides for them defensively is switchability and length. He can really move. He's extremely talented. Jeff has said as much in some of these other shows. Like Bradshaw's really talented. He's got to stay healthy, but a lot of those things that Kentucky's been missing as far as rim protection is concerned, as far as the ability to get out and show on some of these ball screens at times. People have taken advantage of Trey Mitchell at points. They're not going to be able to do that as much with Aaron Bradshaw. And while he's still young and he's still figuring out some of those things at the college level, ball screen coverages, he's so naturally talented and gifted that he's going to be able to figure those things out quicker than a lot of other players. And the fact of the matter is they needed more size. And him coming back obviously adds a huge boost. And if he's able to hit threes, I mean, come on. He was arguably their most touted or most highly touted player coming in. That's with Dillingham, Wagner, Reed, everybody. And that's one of the things that, they've lacked is an athletic five. And Calipari's best teams have had an athletic five.
Goodman, are you worried about the fact, I'm going to throw some numbers at you, Ado Thoreau, 15 minutes tonight. Justin Edwards, 14 minutes tonight. Trey Mitchell, 36 minutes. Aaron Bradshaw, 29 minutes. Is this the end of the Kentucky small ball revolution? Are we going to see two bigs for Kentucky from now until the end of time?
No, I don't think we're going to see two bigs. I mean, yes, I think you're going to see Bradshaw play 25, 30 minutes. I think you're going to see Trey Mitchell's minutes taper off a little bit. I think he's going to get down to where he's playing 18 to 22 minutes at the end of the day. So I think there's some times they're going to play together, but listen, Bradshaw fits them a whole lot better. He can make threes too. Maybe not at the rate that Trey Mitchell has made him. Trey Mitchell's obviously a fifth-year guy. He's been around a long, long time in college basketball. But Bradshaw's ceiling and what he does for Kentucky's ceiling is completely different because he gives you some rim protection. Trey Mitchell doesn't. He can make up for other guys' mistakes. He can make up for his own mistakes, right, on the perimeter because of the way he can make up ground defensively. And again, like, man, when you go with him, the way that team plays, the quickness and the lob threat that Aaron Bradshaw can possess, he does so many things. I think he can be a number one-ish pick in this draft. He can be mentioned with that. I've said this all along. I think he's that talented of a player in a weak draft at the top.
Yeah, and I do think that it helps being able to have a little bit more lineup versatility and lineup flexibility, right? Like you don't want to play two big guys together for 40 minutes, but if you need to use it for 15 minutes a game and in some matchups you got to use it for 35 because you're going up against a team that you just need it, it's nice to be able to have that dice throw. And if you go 8 deep with a bunch of guys that can do different things, all of whom are good, which is what I think Kentucky has, Terrence, I think that is a very good situation to be in.
Hey, can I throw this out there? And if I couldn't have been a bigger Reed Shepherd fan, he comes off the bench today. Wagner gets back. He doesn't complain. He still freaking produces. And not a ton like he's been producing lately. Just he still produces. He ends up with 27 minutes, understands he's not going to get all the shots. 2 for 4 from the field, 1 for 3, 1 for 2 from the line. Ends up with 6 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, 0 turnovers, and a block. Like, he's not a freaking draft pick? Are you crazy? Would you guys have told me at the beginning of the year? No, you wouldn't have. I'm just going to answer beforehand that he was going to be the best freshman for Kentucky. Cal wasn't even mentioning him in the press conferences. Like, in the fact of the matter, he just keeps doing stuff.
Listen, remember when we saw him? We saw him 2 summers ago, and we were like, or after his sophomore year, and we were like, we like him, but we're not sure if he's really good enough. And then, Tio, you were the first one to jump in the bandwagon after his junior summer when we saw him in Rock Hill, right? We see him in Rock Hill.
Yeah, I think it was after his junior year. We saw him first in Birmingham, and then the following year in Rock Hill.
You were like, he's really growing on me. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, he's really growing on me too. And even Dauster got on board. It took a while, but he finally got on board. But the kid played for a team that moved the basketball. He moves it. He makes all the right plays. And for this Kentucky team, man, is that important.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
When you watched him too, he would never make the blatantly wrong play. And then even when he did make a wrong play, he would fix it. The kid, I mean, he's so solid. Sam Vecini, would Sam have him in the top 10? Like, I can't find a way to say no. I can't. How do you say it? Vecini?
Vecini.
Put the wrong emphasis.
He's got Pele and Vecini. He's got all sorts of.
I'm off today. I'm dealing with a head cold. I'm off today. But he,
I'm just glad
but he
you have your
has been in the
voice
top
tonight.
10.
Yeah.
Huh?
Look, he could play. The one thing I will say about
He
Reed Sheppard is this. We don't need every single Kentucky game to have 10 minutes of camera shots of the parents that say like they played at Kentucky. Yes, we know his dad played at Kentucky, his mom played at Kentucky. Everybody knows it at this point. You don't need to throw that. It's like when they said Jalen Suggs and Paige Beckers knew each other in high school. Remember that? Or was Jalen Suggs used to be a quarterback? Yes, we know all that. Everyone's covered this. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need to see his mom every single time he does something well, just sitting there in the stands. Let's go. Let's go. She gets fired up, man.
High-fiving the hell out of somebody.
Yes, it looked like it was painful. That was one of those ones where you come up shaking your hand like, I don't know about that. All right, let's talk. I do want to ask you real quick, Goodman, what do you know about the Tyrese Proctor injury? Do you have anything that you can share with us? Duke played today. Duke beat Charlotte today. Jared McCain started for Tyrese Proctor, had 21 points, 3 boards, 3 assists. Jeremy Roach, 18 points, 3 boards, 3 assists. Tyrese Proctor did not play.
So what I've been told, according to my source, is that it's probably going to be a 3-week or so injury. Obviously, it's a sprained ankle, so they don't know. Could he be back sooner? Sure. Could it take a little bit longer? Absolutely. But somewhere they're thinking in that range of when he got hurt, about 3 or 4 weeks at that point, which puts it at another probably 2.5 weeks. I don't know if this hurts as much as people think, because again, listen, McCain and Foster get more of an opportunity right now. Tyrese Proctor was not good. He had not been very good so far. In fact, I think it's safe to say that he had been frustrating for a lot of people to watch, probably including the Duke coaching staff, because they want more of him. They expect more of him with the way he played the second half of last year, and he just hadn't delivered it yet. So, you know what? We'll see when he comes back, but I think this helps them in some ways because, again, it forces McCain and Foster to get more playing time, at the point, and see how that looks.
You look at McCain's last few games. He had 6 points against Arkansas, and then today he goes for 21. Sometimes the best thing that can happen is a guy just to get elongated minutes and kind of play through some of those mistakes. And McCain, now that he's able to do that, Proctor had that opportunity to do it last year. This year, McCain hasn't really had that leash, and now he's forced to have that leash. And you saw the results. I think long term, this could be the best part. This could be the best thing that happened. Just you're able to throw a couple of other guys in there, McCain being one of them.
All right, we got about 3 minutes here before we get to the afters and we answer your questions in the chat. Goodman, we went to ISO ball for TO earlier. We're going to ISO ball for you here right now because your Final Four pick, your preseason WCC champion, the team that you love more than anybody else, went into Fort Collins, walked into Moby Arena, and walked out with a W. The St. Mary's Gales improved to 5-5 on the season with a 64-61 win over previously undefeated number 13 Colorado State and Isaiah Stevens and the Fighting Nico Medveds. Jeff, clear out your ball. Go.
You know what it's time for, first of all? Cracking open another blue moon, baby, because the Gales are back. The Gales are back, baby. I'm back in the wagon. I got off the wagon, but I'm back on the wagon right now. And listen, Augustus Marcellonis.
Good player.
Listen, he is a good player, a really good player. I remember seeing him 2 years ago in Fort Collins and thinking to myself, this is going to be the next really good guard for St. Mary's. That hasn't transpired. Okay, it's taken longer. Their best player is Aiden Mahaney. There's too much pressure and been too much pressure on Aiden Mahaney. They're not an athletic team. Dukas has been inconsistent. They miss Logan Johnson. I get all that. I would just say this. In Randy Bennett, I trust, period. They knocked off Colorado State tonight from the unbeaten, and the Gales are back, baby.
Are you worried about Colorado State, Tio?
No, I'm not. I'm not necessarily worried. They got probably the top 3-point guard in all of college basketball. St. Mary's, they can beat you. Really, their swing guy to how good they can really be is Josh Jefferson, the 4.
Yes, bingo.
Like Like that's the guy that had really struggled out of the gate, hadn't hit shots, was still trying to find his rhythm. He was the highest usage guy. And when I talked to Randy Bennett whenever they played Boise, he was like, yeah, he's making some mistakes, but I have to let him figure it out because we're going to need him during conference play. And they're still going to be really good, but he's kind of the swing guy. You know what Mitchell Saxon is? He's an offensive rebounder. Augustus Marciulionis is going to be this defensive bulldog. And then Aiden Mahaney's going to be a bucket. They haven't gotten very good play from Alex Dukas. He's been in and out of the lineup with a back thing. I think it's bothering his jump shot. But their swing guys, Josh Jefferson, and today he was good.
Yeah, he had 16 points, 13 boards, 1 assist, 1 steal, 1 block, and he hit 2 threes when he had only hit 2 threes all season coming into this game. So listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. We are heading to the afters, which happens to be this exact same stream right here that we're on. So welcome to the afters. Feel free to jump in the chat. Feel free to fire us questions. Feel free to do all the things that we've done every night during After Dark for the 3 years that we've been doing this show. There are a couple things that I want to get to here. We're going to have to
I've
talk
dealt
about
with you
BYU
for 3 years.
At some point. 4 at this point now. 4 Goodman. This is year 4 Field of 68. We got to talk about Utah BYU. We got to talk about Cincinnati Xavier. We got to talk about UCLA Villanova. But I can't.
That game was terrible.
We're an hour into the show, Jeff, and we haven't talked about the biggest game, the biggest storyline, the most important matchup of the day in college basketball. We haven't gotten there yet. We're doing it right now.
Not.
DePaul takes on Louisville. Louisville walks into Wintrust Arena and walks out of there with an L. Tony Stubblefield, 75-68. How important was this win for the DePaul Blue Demons, Jeff Goodman?
I mean, listen, this was like basically this was like a John Wooden Coach K coaching matchup between Kenny Payne and Tony Stubblefield. Ultimately, listen, these two guys are fighting for their lives. They're fighting for their jobs. And I thought Louisville would go in and win because I just felt like they have more talent. But they go to Chicago.
They do.
Trust.
They do have more talent. They do have more talent.
I know. And Stubbs listen, I think Stubbs probably makes it through the year. I think both of them probably do. But again, we don't know. Like if they start getting blasted like they have been lately, like if DePaul had lost by 20, I think then you could have been like, okay, does Dwayne Peavy, their AD, make a move here soon? How long can he last with this? Well, at least DePaul gets a little bit of credibility out of this one, where to me you flip it and you're like, Louisville fans.
Do they know?
Well, they have
credibility.
You got to win it. It's the toilet bowl. It's the toilet bowl. You got to win the toilet bowl at the end of the day. Kenny Payne right now, it's about as bad as it's ever going to get there. And it's hard to say with a 4-win season a year ago. You know about the toilet bowl. You've played the toilet bowl before, Dauster. You've scrubbed the toilet bowl. We know you've scrubbed the toilet bowl before.
I mean, you've never cleaned the toilets in your house? That actually explains a lot, Goodman. It explains a lot.
I've done it. But listen, this is brutal for Kenny Payne and Louisville because we felt like there was nowhere to go but up, right? Nowhere to go but up from last year's disastrous 4-win season. And now you've won 4 games this year. But what did we say entering the season? Like they had to win, they don't have to get to the NCAA tournament or the NIT, but they've got to show like real progress. And by losing at DePaul and not even really putting any game pressure on maybe the worst time major in the country right now, like this is a brutal embarrassment, a continuous embarrassment.
I concur.
Theo, you got anything?
No, not really. It's embarrassing.
What can you say?
It's embarrassing.
Right.
The fact that they even got a schedule together, like, whose idea was this? It was like
I love it.
Brainchild decided that this was a good idea.
I want to sign a series. Like, let's keep this series going.
Let's do it a year-to-year situation. Like, who was the brain surgeon that decided like this is the move on House of Blues night? On Blues night, it was blues night in Chicago. We were all singing the blues. In fact, they played.
Oh man, I don't think I've seen any game. There was no games today that got as much social media traction and as much attention and as much people tweeting about it and as much people posting about it as Louisville DePaul did today. And it was Louisville DePaul. Oh, it's just so funny. All right, let's. I want to go from there to a game that probably was less entertaining to watch. I know that you watched every possession of this UCLA Villanova. Tio, when I watched that game, I couldn't help but think I was watching two NIT teams.
You know what's funny is if we hadn't started out with Louisville DePaul, I probably would have gone harder at this one, but it wasn't that bad. So like, no, I'm sitting there watching UCLA, and I kind of understand it. Like, you know what? They have a lot of young pieces. There's some guys that are still adjusting to the American college game. They're freshmen at the lead guard spots. Like, I'm kind of working my way up to UCLA. Villanova, I'm not going to say this was like – I'm just confused. Like, why isn't this team top 10 in the country? There's enough talent out there that they're a top 10 team in the country. Eric Dixon has turned from a weakness into a strength, and they're still just – it just wasn't – I sent text message to you guys in our group chat leading up. I was like, am I just watching two bad teams right now? Like, I'm trying my best to like convince myself that these are good teams. And it was just a whole lot of ugly play. So I'm kind of wondering, you know, where the future holds this Villanova team, because there was a pretty substantial investment in getting the players there. And even though they won today, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been through this before with Villanova. They're going to be up and down all year because they don't have a point guard, period. They don't have a good enough point guard situation. They didn't last year, and it was like really not good. Now, they were without Justin Moore today. So that's going to obviously affect them today in terms of their shot making. But Justin Moore is not a point guard either. He's best off the ball. As Tio said, like UCLA, well, you give them a mulligan early because they've got so many new guys, so many international guys that Mick wants to play and play a lot, but they're not ready yet. They're just not. Right. You know, Bona's a really good player, but like he's not a guy that you can go to. Like he's just a big, tough, strong, you know, physical interior player. So I just feel like UCLA is going to get better and better. Villanova, I'm worried that they're going to have their stretches like they did in the Bahamas where they're going to look really good. And then as long as they don't have to play Big Five games, maybe they'll be okay. I don't know.
Yeah, so much of what Villanova does is just one-on-one. Like that's all it is. It's let's get somebody in the post. Let's see if we can find a matchup there and try to score. And then if that doesn't work, then maybe you can kick it out and someone has got to close that opportunity, right? That's basically what their entire offense is. And to me, there's a ceiling to what an offense that operates that way is going to be able to do. It's like watching
ball sticks a little bit more this year than it has whenever Jay Wright was there. Ball sticks like they would still do all of those things.
Yo, they don't have a point guard. They had great point guards. Think about how long they had great point guards who knew how to move the ball, who were like, whether it was Archie, whether it was Brunson, whether it was Gillespie.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. That definitely helps. But like, it's not just that, because when those teams, what made them great wasn't just the fact that Arch and Jalen Brunson and Gillespie were really, really good. It's that when the ball ends up on the wing after a closeout, you got to do it in Mikal Bridges, who averages 16 points and 4 assists. You got a guy in Dante DiVincenzo that can get to the basket and can create for somebody else, right? Like it feels like everything that this team does is just built around, okay, we're going to try to go one-on-one, and hopefully that works.
They're not pros. Well, they're not pros. You're the guys you just mentioned were pros. These guys are all still at Villanova and transferred there. Why? Because they couldn't get to the NBA, whether it was Tyler Burton, Hakeem Hart, or TJ Bamba. Like, those guys are not pros. The guys you mentioned are all pros who developed. They didn't necessarily come in as pros, but, man, they developed as pros.
But that shouldn't matter. Like, you shouldn't be 7-4 with an 0-3 record. They finished 6th place in the Big Five. 6th place in the Big Five. Think about that. When you're Villanova and you got, they may not be NBA players, but these are like European pros that are 23 years old and all conference guys in college basketball. Like, you can't be 7-4 right now with the pieces that you have on this roster for Villanova. You can't be.
But they did a lot of the same things. Yeah, $3 million payroll. That's a big point. But here's another thing too. Going back to what I was saying about the ball sticking, like they would run some of those same things, and even Arcidiacono and some of those guys, they would go in and post up and put their back to it. But as soon as that ball would get kicked out, it would be swing, and then they would attack on the other side. Now it's getting back out there. They're trying to shoot it, and then the guy who catches is like hesitant. Should I shoot it? Should I not? Or he dribbles it and he passes it, and then the next guy holds it like a dribbles it and passes it.
I have a very important question to ask. In our chat, our producer, Trevor Release, just said, don't like UCLA. I guess you've got a bone to pick with them. A bone to pick with them. As
a father of two, I appreciate that.
Do we need to fire him? And then he said, all right, hold on. It gets worse. So Dagan, who's producing tonight's show, got upset about it, and Trevor's response was, Dagan, does it look like I give a dem?
A what?
A dem.
See,
that's actually pretty funny. My question my question is, do we need to give Trevor a raise for that? Not only were they great dad jokes, but he's trolling Dagan, which makes me really happy. Hey, Dagan,
I voted let it slide.
Game tonight. All right. Before we get into questions, I just want to ask you real quick. Utah BYU. Utah won 73-69. It was the first time that BYU lost this season. BYU shot 7 for 30 from 3. My takeaway, though, T.O., I kind of think this Utah team is sneaky.
They're good.
Brendan Carlson he's a bad dude. Like, he could play.
Did you know he's got his 4-year wedding anniversary coming up in March?
Yes, I did.
That's a fact. I'm not making that up. That's in their notes. It's true. It's his 4-year wedding anniversary coming up. That's how old he is. And he did a Mormon mission, and he's a 5th-year senior. That dude is like 25, 26 years old. How he's still there, I don't know what's happening. No, I'm a big fan of Utah. I know they dropped 2. They dropped 1 to Houston. They dropped 1 to St. John. Since then, they've rattled off St. Mary's, Hawaii, Southern Utah, BYU. And I think Craig Smith is a good coach. I think they have good players, and I think they're a matchup nightmare, especially at the 4 spot, because they're so freaking big. I'm a big fan of that team, and then they can go Davon Smith off the bench, transfer from Georgia Tech, who's like this lightning quick guard that they can throw some things up and do some things differently. I'm a fan of Utah. I've been a fan of their team pretty much the whole season. They led the whole game, and the fact of the matter is, they have guards in Raleigh Worcester and Gabe Madsen who are solid, and they're old, both seniors. Out of their starting lineup, 4 seniors and a junior. They're old, they're reliable, and they've got different guys that can help on a given night. Like, that's kind of where I'm at with them. Smith didn't play tonight, but like they know what they are, and they're extremely physical, and they're big. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, they're old. Raleigh Worcester makes no sense to me. Like, that dude does not look like he should be a basketball player. He looks like a guy that should have walked onto the team. He does not look like somebody that's going to go out there and average 11, 6, and 6 in the Pac-12. But, oh, by the way, like, he's crossing people up and going between the legs and, like, sliding through 2 people and finishing on the other side of the rim with his left hand. Like, where the hell did that come from that dude? It makes no sense to me. I like this team. Goodman, who do you feel better about moving forward, BYU or Utah?
Probably Utah, because they're in the Pac-12. You know,
I agree.
I think BYU is going to have some trouble once they get into the Big 12. You know, other than UCF and Cincinnati didn't look great, and I know we're going to get there here soon. I just don't think there's a lot of easy wins in the Big 12. Even TCU, who, again, like T.O. said, they played the Sisters and the Poor, probably the worst honestly the worst schedule to date of any team in the country. And Jamie Dixon should be ashamed of himself. And I love Jamie.
What about the college
playing
for women? McNeese State had a pretty good.
We talked about
It's
them.
like
I toasted
McNeese State. It's like right there.
I toasted the College of Mississippi College of Women last week because they brought it. They covered. They pushed. They pushed the 69-point spread. Anyway, I would say probably Utah because of the league.
Yep. All right. We had one question come in. It was I can't remember who the name was. It was directed to you, Goodman, and the question was, how concerned are you about your Indiana Hoosiers right now?
Yeah, I've been concerned all year. I mean, listen, I think everybody knows, again, my 50 grand goes to Indiana, but like I've been concerned about their roster construction. I've said this from day one in the offseason that Mike Woodson still is putting together a team like it's 1988. You need shooters. You need shooters, and he doesn't have any lights-out shooters in this team. Now, they're missing Xavier Johnson, but they beat Maryland and who else did they just beat? Maryland and Michigan, at Michigan. So they won 2 games without him. They're 2-1 without Xavier Johnson. In this game, they needed more than just Xavier Johnson because Auburn just comes at you. And that's when the game changed. When Bruce Pearl comes at you with that pressure, and you've got Gabe Cupps, who again, is a really good guard, a program guard, but he's not ready for that as a freshman, and he has no help because you got 3 bigs. And Mackenzie Mbako is a 4-man playing the 3. That's what he is. And Galloway is not shooting the ball well. He shot it well last year in very limited attempts. Their bench isn't very good. They've got a 10 of NIL, and again, it's roster construction. That's what it is, period. Starts there.
Kudos to Gabe. Yeah. Kudos to Gabe Cupps. Didn't turn it over once today. That's about the extent of the positive thing. And here's another thing too. Auburn is relentless. They're not going to be the biggest team on the floor, but they are relentless. I think they played how many guys? 9 guys over 12 minutes, and it's just in waves and next and emotion, and it's going. And Auburn's a tough team to play against. And whenever you don't have multiple guards that can create, you're in trouble. And
so we saw Auburn.
Theo, how much will you give me if I walk into Assembly Hall? I talked about this the other night in New York. If I walk into Assembly Hall for the Kansas-Indiana game on Saturday night carrying a big brick.
A huge
brick. Because they can't make shots. They're just going to lay bricks. Both teams are going to lay bricks from 3-point land.
It's good. They're going to be able to build some condominiums.
Yes, I don't think anyone would get the joke, Goodman, but you probably be arrested for bringing a weapon into an athletic event. I got a question for you. I want to ask you guys about Auburn because I've been on this team, and I know that they lost at App State, and App State's pretty good, and they went on the road and challenged themselves on the road and went to a mid-major to go play a game on the road, which more high majors should do. So I don't want to kill them for taking that loss. I want to commend them for playing that game. They shoot under 30% from 3. I'm not convinced that they have a ton in the half court, but when they get going, T.O., like you mentioned, it's waves and waves and waves. There was a stretch for the last 13 minutes of the first half where Auburn went on a 42-12 run against Indiana today, and they made Indiana look like a mid-major team. They were scared to inbound the ball. Nobody on Indiana wanted that ball in their hands at all, point blank, period. What do you make of this Auburn group? How high is their ceiling, Terrence?
I feel like it's the same. I feel like it's the same team Bruce Pearl has pretty much, every year. I think the ceiling's a Sweet 16, but it all depends on matchups. I think if nothing else, we've learned over the last year that matchups are absolutely crucial, especially the way they're seeding the tournament right now. That part's obviously huge. They're going to have their guards play well. Aiden Holloway has been good. I know I'm never going to get on to them for going up and playing App State. And shout out to Dusty Kearns for getting that win. But I'm not I'm not going to down them for that. You're walking into a buzzsaw. It's the only show in town. You try to bring some energy. I'm with all that.
Get it. Here's what can I ask you this? Listen, I'll give Bruce Pearl all the respect in the world for playing at App State. My take on, and you would know this better than me, Tio. how many recruits are there in the area of I'm playing at Georgia State because it's in Atlanta. I'm playing somewhere where there's a recruiting base that I can, but I'm not playing at App State. It made no sense to me why he would play at App State. If you're going to choose a mid-major, play at one that's got a recruiting. I just didn't understand it. I give him credit for it. I don't understand it.
The only thing I can come up with is Boone is beautiful. Outside of that, I can't figure it out either. It's up in the middle of nowhere. There's not a whole lot of players that way. Unless there's one up there that we just don't know about. Like, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it would make more sense for Bruce to go play at Georgia Tech or at Georgia State or something like that. Because everybody knows, like, when Bruce was in Atlanta, he's coming out with a player. But at the same time, like, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
They put Indiana in Atlanta today. And again, if you're Mike Woodson, you don't want to play. But Mike Woodson, Indiana, they got Yasir Roseman on their staff. He's an Atlanta guy.
They got Yas. They got Yas. That's the reason they went to Atlanta.
Correct. That's why they did it.
And Caleb Banks is from Atlanta.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Do we have there's one more question. Well, I got two more questions in the chat. I'm going to go to you first on this one, Goodman. Are you still upset about Bryce Drew going 0-18 in the SEC?
Again, my big thing with that is how do you fire a guy who went to the tournament year one, 2 years later when he lost Darius Garland for the year? You know, again, I get you should never go 0-18. I'm not saying Bryce Drew is the right guy at Vandy, but you know who wasn't the right guy? Who wasn't the right guy, Robert?
No comment.
Yeah, Jerry Stackhouse. Jerry Stackhouse, who's getting his brains beaten in. He had one half of a good year last year. One half of a good year, and he's picked up kind of where he was for the first, 3.5 years, which was irrelevance. So ultimately, it's not going to be long for Jerry Stackhouse at Vandy. He will leave without going to an NCAA tournament, one fewer than Bryce Drew went to. And, oh, by the way, Bryce Drew is kind of doing pretty well out there in Grand Canyon, is he not? Last I checked.
They won today. They went into Lynchburg, where we will be in 2 years for the Field of 68 tip-off, and knocked off a good Liberty team. Grand Canyon is now 8-1.
Grand Canyon.
Yes, they do. They do. We have a question. Why haven't you guys talked about Marquette's win? Because they beat Notre Dame by about roughly 800. Is there anything you need to talk about there, TL?
I turned on the television. It was 21-2. I was like, whoa.
I guess I can expect that.
Hey, was LaFonso Ellis on that game? LaFonso Ellis was on that game just watching his alma mater just get their brains beat in.
Yeah,
God, that's tough.
Goodman, we had a question about the Crosstown shootout. How important was that win for Sean Miller?
I mean, huge, because they're probably not going to be an NCAA tournament team. So you got to kind of feel good about yourself, still get enough momentum that you're not going to suck this year. And anytime, listen, I went there a couple of years ago, man, that venom, that hatred between those two schools is real. Like, that's one of the best rivalries, maybe top 5 rivalry in all of college, but maybe even top 3 in all of college.
3 miles.
So that was a big one.
Like,
and Quincy Oliveira was playing bad.
It was what, 10 miles, 15 miles, UNC and Duke?
I think it's like 7 miles or something like that. This is nothing, and they're very different types of schools. So I think there's a lot of hatred. But yeah, they're not going to be. I don't think either team's an NCAA tournament team at the end. I think they're both NIT teams.
Cincinnati's gotten off to a good start.
Didn't really play anybody.
That's true.
Nobody good. Nobody very good.
So big news, really big news. Joe Biden is currently in our chat on YouTube, and he just said Jeff Goodman is a well-known sports reporter. Goodman, does it feel good to know that Joe Biden knows who you are?
Yeah, I mean, Sleepy Joe is up at 12:24. That's pretty good, right? Pretty good.
Goodman is cut off. Goodman is cut off.
Just saying. I'm kidding. I listen. Listen, here's my political take. I'm going to give you one political take.
Oh God.
Nobody over the age of 75 should be president. That's what I'll say. Period.
So that officially means that Goodman is not allowed to be president anymore, according to his own rules. All right. Before we do something to get us all canceled, let's go to Toast of the Night. Goodman, I know you have something good stored up over there. So what do you got for Toast of the Night? Kick us off.
I actually don't have anything great. You know what? I'm gonna toast. Here's what I'm gonna toast. To LeBron James, who made another $500,000 tonight. So LeBron, I know you needed it. I know you needed the $500,000. I'm gonna start there, and then I'm let you guys go to 2 college guys, and then I'm gonna circle back with my third one. But LeBron, I feel good. They won the play-in tournament, and it's something I could give a shit about. But for the young guys on the Lakers, actually, I'm very happy because $500,000.
Yeah, you don't like the play-in tournament?
I really don't.
I love it.
I freaking love
Goodman
it.
Doesn't like T.O. Goodman does not like stuff that's fun. Like, he is anti-fun. He's anti-having a good time. He's let's do something cool because we could do something cool. He just doesn't like cool shit. It is what it is. Who you got for Toast?
Why don't you like it, Jeff?
I just don't understand. Like I need something there other than extra money for guys making $20-30 million. I want something else. I want a playoff berth on the line. I need something tangible other than these guys making more money. That's what I want. I want a carrot that like says, hey, if you win this thing, you get an automatic playoff berth.
I like the fact that they're making $500,000 a guy, because in the NBA right now, you're either making 5 years, $250 million, or you're making like squat. Like, so those other guys making squat, that $500,000's a lot. And then the point differential stuff, I love, because guys are still having to play till the end. Like,
I know, but poor Andre Drummond when they were shacking him early.
Hit your free throws, buddy. Hit your free throws.
Right,
I love it.
All right.
I love it. Toast of the night goes to Reed Shepherd. You don't start, and you still produce. I'm a big fan.
What are we doing?
Reed Shepherd. Dude, there were so many games that were just games today. They were just games. I'm acknowledging. You know what I'm acknowledging? A guy that's willing to play his role, Jeff. A guy who's willing to. He doesn't have to be the superstar every day. He embraces what he's supposed to do on a given night. I don't have anything else. There wasn't really a spectacular game today. Like spectacular.
It would be nice if Goodman would do that. It would be nice. It would be nice if Goodman would do exactly what you just said.
I kept quiet for 3.5 minutes to start the show. What do you mean?
world record.
Hey, I'm surprised. I'm surprised Jeff didn't go with Tony Stubblefield.
All right,
I'm not done yet. I'm not done.
My toast of the night. I'm gonna have a couple here. My first toast of the night is gonna go out to Joe Biden in our chat, who said, this is his most recent comment, Rob Dauster is a better sports reporter than Jeff Goodman. So my toast of the night goes to Joe Biden in the chat, because I am clearly a better sports reporter than Jeff Goodman. I think we can kind of all agree on that.
What does that sound?
And it's Dagan. So that sound is not going out. That sound is Dagan bringing in the audio so that he can talk to us, and then turning off the audio. So like nobody else, none of the people listening to the show right now have any idea what Tio is talking about.
Yeah.
Oh man. It is what it is. All right. My toast of the night is going to go out to the Butler Bulldogs. They picked up a double overtime win over Cal at home. They are 8-2 on the season right now. Posh Alexander had 21 points. Pierre Brooks had 20. I'm also going to send a toast of the night out to Indiana State, who picked up a 50-point win over, I can't even remember who it was. But that means I need to update the new power rankings on KenPom in the state of Indiana. Number 1 is Purdue, who's number 2 on KenPom. Number 2 is Indiana State, who's number 54 on KenPom. Number 3 is Butler, who's number 61 on KenPom. And number 4 is Indiana, who's outside the top 75. So my toast goes out to
Josh
the second and third in the state of Indiana. If you haven't seen Robbie Avila play, Is it Robbie Avila or Avila? I think it's Robbie Avila. If you haven't seen him play for Indiana State, I am telling you right now, make sure that
do
you
with the
watch them.
goggles.
Yes, make sure that you watch them because he's 6'8", he wears rec specs, and he is an absolute killer. He's like a mid-major Jokic. He's so much fun. I have like 17 toasts in the night right there. Goodman, go ahead. Close it out. Take us home.
All right, my last one. I'm going to make it short. My toast to our city. I'm back, baby.
This has been the Field of 68 After Dark. Please rate, review, subscribe, like, do all those things that make us happy as podcasters. And if we get to 1,000 likes on this episode of the show, I will fire Jeff Goodman.